Hi, this is Scott Maple from Kropserkel. Wanted to give you a little bit more guidance about how to put together your Kropserkel helmet kit. And the stage that I'm at here now is the parts are cut out and have been sanded. One way when you are cutting out this section with, I use a Dremel with a drum sanding wheel to rotate, and you can see you want to kind of create a same kind of beveled edge on both sides, and you can look to see. It's sometimes distorted when you're looking at it from the front to see that you don't have one side longer than the other, but if you copy it from the inside, and just keep flipping back and forth to see that you're getting a good balanced and symmetrical cut out there for your lens, because otherwise it's going to be obvious that it isn't. I've also come to you at the stage where I've already cut this out and heat formed it. There's another video to show you how I arrived at getting that correct curvature. If you have the curvature that is done at too high a heat level, you have the tendency to possibly create a crease or something that's going to give you some optical distortion when you're looking. So you want to have that very uniform, and when you're placing it into your helmet, when you're ready to adhere it in, it's been shaped. Make sure that you're shaping it into this piece, but not too hot that you want to that you could affect the ABS in melting it with a hot lens. I use a heat gun to do this, but nowhere near these parts when I'm doing it. I just have this part isolated when I was doing it before, and then place it into this just to make sure that you're taking the correct form. But you also want to make sure that you've got a lip that is enough to overlap the entire aperture of that faceplate, enough that you can put glue on it. But I'll go into that in a second. One thing I like to do when it's at this stage is make sure that I've got all the parts ready, because once I've got the glue going into the lens, there's time to wait. So what I'm doing here is, on these two flats that are on either side of the helmet, I'm taking a box cutter and I'm creating a grid, just basically lightly scoring the surface. Give it a lot of tooth there, because the next step is going to explain why that is. But I like to make sure that when the parts are going together, that they can be repositioned without using ABS adhesive. That ABS adhesive is permanent and it dries pretty quickly. So I like to go in with an impermanent or a method that you can actually change up that surface as much as you need to, making adjustments. That's why we use the technique that we do to make it. So once I've got that scored on both sides, I'm going to take, and I like to use this Scotch 3M tape. This is a very strong industrial outdoor double-sided foam adhesive tape. And it's very strong, can hold 16 pounds. So I'm just pressing that flat onto there. And with a more precise artist's blade, X-Acto blade, I'm just gonna cut along that edge, make sure that we're making use of it. And I also want to make sure that it's not gonna go beyond those sections, because then you could possibly see it in the actual finished helmet, because I don't actually remove this. I found one thing about this particular tape is that once it is exposed to air, even once, it has a tendency to cure, and the bond, once it's been put onto this material, seems to strengthen. Like I could pull it off right now without much difficulty, but tomorrow it will be a much firmer grip. So it's almost like it's activated somehow by just being exposed to the air once. Being careful here not to score into the visible surface, because even on the Scout you have this blinder section on there, which I always found kind of strange for somebody that needs to have some kind of visibility when they're flying along the speeds that they do. But it is concealed in the helmet when it's entirely assembled. But I just want to make sure that I'm not going to be seeing any edge of that lip. So now that that's on there, I'm going to apply some of the decals as well, which if you'll note, I have cut out from their vinyl print sheet. And this one's interesting because we've seen people that have actually put a casting on the front of this that has that line on it. But using the vinyl technique, it's still fine because the detail is actually in the ABS part, as is this lip. So when the vinyl goes on, and I'm going to remove it from its sheet here by the top, just folding it over. I do have tweezers that I use for this occasionally, but this particular one I like to position well. So I'm going to hold it to there, making sure that it's equidistant from both, not going over that lip. And I'm holding it at the top to make sure that I'm getting that aligned. And I'm going to run my finger right down the middle, making sure that as I go up, I'm going to find where that groove is. I'm not going to the edges, I'm just going right to the middle there. So it's all stuck down and properly stretched out in that part. And once it's in that stage, I can now then use my finger and just work down one side, squeezing out any of the air bubbles that might happen along the way. Again, this can be repositioned should you need to, but my level of expertise, I don't want to be pompous, but I've actually done this once or twice. Results may vary. Anyway, as you get it, if there's a bubble there, you can hear them kind of get squeezed out. And there you go. There is going to be a casting that goes over top of this, so I'm not terribly worried about anything that happens in this region, but there's nothing there. It looks quite good. Now I'm going to get to the tweezers because I think they are necessary for this next phase. A precise set of tweezers here, generally used for electronics, but any should do. I just like it because I'm not getting any oil from your skin on it at all, on the back of it. And I just do this visually. I'm putting it up to the top part of that ridge, making sure that that center line is where it is, right in the very center. And there we've got that part on there. These guys, this is the three lines, vertical lines. I put my decals face down. I work a corner off first, just to get it starting to separate from the sheet. And then I put that face down, and then I create a crease as I'm going. Try to keep that crease very close to it so that any of those pre-cut pieces all stay within the printed vinyl set. That way they're all still intact. And I'm going to go up here. This one goes midway. Again, you can use that last decal that I put on the nose frown, as it's called, affectionately. I'm going to keep that line in line with the middle one here and about midway. And then if it doesn't separate immediately, you can see it is, you can just keep working your finger on it down. Once I've got it that far, I can just pull it by hand. There you go. Excellent. So that's the faceplate. Over here, this is our big wraparound section. I'm not quite sure what to call this because most helmets usually go on top of the head, but this is one that goes around the back. A couple of pieces on here that go into these indentations. These are quite easily done. Again, using the tweezers. Again, you don't need tweezers to do this. It's just a more precise method. I like to create a shadow here. I like to see where the top of that is because it's not a really profound indentation. But in order to keep them straight, I like to see where that shadow is. Again, once that first side is down, you work one side to the other, making sure you're squeezing out any of the bubbles that happen in there. Nice and flush. Vinyl has great adhesion to ABS. The glossy surface on the ABS is really good for this. If you squeeze all the bubbles out, then there's no need to do anything with these things. Painting them is just arduous, and you can weather over these and everything, and it'll hold whatever you need on top of it, but it's a very clean appearance. Okay, so there's two. Now this piece is this is the most difficult detail to put on the Scouts in general, and that is all of these bars. This barred section is one that you're going to want to use a special technique to remove from its stamp here, and that is, I put it down as before. I'm going to work a corner up very slightly, and then using one finger, I'm going to keep separating that piece. You want to really take your time with this. I'm going to make it look easy, as I do most things, but I'm folding it back. I'm saying that tongue-in-cheek, by the way. I'm just being a goof. As you can see, all the pieces are staying in the die nicely. I'm not going to remove it entirely, though. I'm going to stop right there, and there's a reason for that. I want them to keep their alignment when it starts going down. So, at this stage, I want to be able to align it right with the edge of this, coming down here, and I'm going to find that corner, and just along the top edge. I'm not going to push the whole thing down. I'm going to go right across the top, because I have the guideline of the fact that they're still all within the stamp, the die, as cut. And they're all aligned, nice and straight. Okay? Don't want them to start getting all warped. Note that it's still attached here to the paper. So at this stage, I'm going to go and I'm going to start to separate them. Being very careful to make sure that they are actually stuck down on the helmet, which is working all the way along. And then once I see that, I know I'm good. I'm going to just keep pulling that up. All still on the card out the other side. Okay. Take that over here. I'm going to pull the paper away. And now with my finger, I'm going to gently go brush all these vertically down. All stroke, no bubbles. Not trying to do it too quick. There you go. All perfectly aligned, all equidistant spacing and all that, top and bottom. So that is achieved. The next phase is one where we are going to put the coverings into the ear gaps. This is not necessary. In fact, the originals did not have them. They were open and painted black towards the inside. But on close inspection, you could still see somebody's ear probably if they were not wearing a hood sock over their head on the inside. Many people do that, but it's also kind of warm to do that. So just in order for it to look dark and for you to still be inside without wearing one of those things, we put these in. They are removable if you want them to be, but these are cut sections of pet-friendly, that means cats can't scratch it, screen. And I have a method that I've used. Again, I like a taping method. I use the soft part of industrial Velcro as the adhesive here. You could glue them in if you wanted to, but this is a way that you can remove them if you need to on a whim. I like this tool too. This is a tool that I think everybody should have. It doesn't come with the school bus sticker, but it's an anvil cut. And this is a really great blade. I like to use it to cut through things that are needing a straight cut, materials, etc. Plastic sometimes works too. So I just cut this into two sections, just from a standard width of this industrial Velcro. I have to do it from both sides because it's too big to fit into the blade. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull one side of this off, attach it, half on and half off of this piece. And then I'm going to find the front of that lip right there, making sure that I'm covering it top to bottom. And then along the inside, I'm just going to rub that on there. Okay. For the other half, I'll put that on too. And now this is the part, you want to go in here and use your thumb, actually your whole hand if you can, to force that part in to keep flush with that aperture. And with that, I'm now able to go in and brush that down, making sure that we're making full contact there. And as you can see, that stays flush on the ear port. And do the other side here too, in case I was too fast for you. Again, pull half off here, half on and half off the screen section, nice and flush. And on this side, we'll make sure along that vertical edge that we don't see any of the tape from the outside. Brushing it onto the inside. I use the soft portion of the Velcro on this in case it comes into contact with your face. For people that are wearing it, it's preferable. Also won't be catching hair when you use the hook version of the loop and hook. So you see there's some ergonomics at play here too. It's a science. The science of costuming. Again, pushing my fingers in there to make sure that I'm following that opening, and I'm going to just take my thumb and rub it down. There you go, nice and flush. One more decal to apply here, and that is the marking that goes onto the visor section. So the visor has a marking on one side, on the left side, if you're the wearer. And again, I'm just going to take up that corner, put it flat down, and again, speed is not the deal here. You want to make sure that all of those pieces are going to remain on the sheet. And I've got the right way. The arrow section points down. Looks like a bit like an angler's hook. And I'm going to place that right there. Don't have to place the whole thing down. I'm going to want to bring it up again. The one thing about working with Velcro is that when you're cutting Velcro, if you've got the loop section, it does want to shed, and you want to make sure that's not going to get under any of your decals, which does not happen in this case. There you go. So that marking's on there. Visor is one that you also don't want to cut these at a 90-degree sharp angle, because any tendency for ABS in particular, if it's scored or if it has a 90-degree cut on it that's too acute, will want to crack at that point. So even the originals were rounded, so keep them rounded. In here for these 2 points, which are your indented portions, I like to use this as a tool. It's not exactly the conventional choice for it because it's intended for leather, but you could use a drill if you wanted. Like a 1/8 drill bit would do it too, but this is a number 2 on a hole punch for leather. And it removes that spot right out, so perfect for the rivets that I put into those positions. Just a little twist, and we're good. Okay. This is your cap. So the rounded section is towards the front. The squared off section is going to be towards the back. And this will go in like this. Once in there, I'm going to pop a rivet in there. But the first thing I want to do, and this is again something that makes it positionable, come back to this Scotch 3M tape. And give me a small section. And put it right on this side. This is again the squared off back section. And I'm going to cut a maybe an 1.5 inch section of it. Put that on one side. And I'm going to do the same by just cutting it in half. And putting that on the other side. You will never see these, but what they will enable me to do is to position this part together, and it will hold its position before it's riveted. I can reposition it, make sure I've got the right angles that I want, and it's not using much in the way of materials. I don't keep long fingernails. That's just me, but it definitely cost me more time. I could, of course, just reach for the right tool. There we are. See, tweezers can be handy to have. Another tip is make sure that your tools are sharp. Blades, knives, all that stuff that you use when cutting things, because it just makes it so much more efficient to get through without worrying. You're more likely to hurt yourself with a dull blade than you would be a sharp one. And I have worked with some dull tools in my day, I tell you. And you know who you are if you're watching this. Anyway, I'm taking this part now, and I'm going to merge them. And this is done in a very tried way. There's a lip at the very top of that cap that I'm going to put, so it's just below the surface of the lip of this back section. And I'm watching right around where my thumbs are that I've got an even amount of gap happening towards the front of that part as well. It's approximately 3/4 of an inch to an inch. And I want to see to it that once those pieces are in, I can press in there, putting my hand in and pressing those two parts down, and they should hold their position. Now, when you look at this, you see I'm looking for the fact that it's going to have the right angle on both sides. I want there to be symmetry on it, and that it sits correctly without being lopsided at all. Once I'm happy that I've got a good level surface up here, I can see now that these are fitting together well, and I'm going to use my punch again to punch a hole. Again, I like to use that piece because it also, I don't have to worry about skipping off. It doesn't create any waste. It's just a punch in. I'm using a very short rivet as well. I'm going to place in there. And before I actually back it up with the washer and punch it closed, I just want to make sure that I'm going to get this just right. Any adjustment I need to make, I can just create some pressure with my thumb on the other side there. And at the exact same location on this side, I'm basically traversing two pieces of plastic here with this punch. And it does so, provided your punch is sharp, will do so effortlessly. That wincing was a special effect, by the way. So here we go. I can place that through, and now I can examine the part without having really committed to it being where it is, and make sure that that's going to be the right level for me. Again, with ABS glue, or the cement that you use, you really get only one chance with it. It starts smearing around, it becomes very messy. So I'm ready, I'm very satisfied with this. I'm going to go in and put the remaining of the washer on the back of this, and I'm holding it in. I use aluminum rivets because the necessity of the strength in here does not warrant using the metal ones. We don't need that kind of strength. This is more than sufficient for this application. As you can see, there's no adhesives in use on this particular build. at this stage. I will use adhesive for the lens when it goes in, but at this point, this is where this part needs to be at this stage. So you can see what the inside is. I've got one rivet per side, and you may think that the double-sided tape that I've got in here and here is counterbalancing the fact that this will not swivel. You won't have that helmet, this cap section, swivel on those 2 points. But when I go in to add the faceplate with the visor section, there will be a second set of rivets that also traverse them 3 pieces. And I will show you how that works. So the parts are immovable except for the swiveling of the visor flipping up and down on its pivot point. But the remainder of it is solid by design. Isn't that genius? The next stage is putting the faceplate and the visor sections together. So with these parts on, I'm going to remove this backing now, which, as you recall, has on the other side the scored section of ABS, which is keeping that part down. And again, this is great because I can reposition it as needed with little effort. So the lens is not in there yet, but I'll show you why I didn't put it in. I'm going to bring this forward and put the visor onto it. And I'm looking for the correct gap on either side to match. And once I've got that, I'm going to turn it to this side. And I'm just going to use one finger to press that down on just the corner there. It's enough to keep it on. And I'm going to go to the other side, aligning that, making sure I'm good in the front. And once I've got it, I'm just tacking it with one little touch. I'm bringing it to the front, watching that gap at the top, and I'm going to start pressing it together. Man, am I good at this. It worked out really well. So from here now you can see on the inside that we've got this line. It gives you an idea of how much contact is actually being made between those 2 parts with that particular tape. But while I probably could leave it like this, I like to back it up and make it even stronger by using again my soft Velcro, which has been measured to just traverse that particular length. And I'm going to put that on to back it from this side and run it so it's not going to be exposed from the outside. Again, like I do with the decals, making sure you're not trapping any air bubbles. Feel that ridge. And there. So now we've got a very strong connection being made between those 2 parts. Definitely sufficient to keep these things together. And because the soft part's facing inside, it's done for your comfort too. So don't say that I didn't care about you or haven't done anything nice for you. That is for the people that had me build them up for them, of course. So there you are, nice and flush. I know now that I'm not going to have any issue with the swiveling point, that this is actually going to come into contact with the cap. And that is a good measured swivel point. And I'm going to put the lens in now, which was previously formed. That goes there. I like to use masking tape that's low tack, just enough to keep it in place. Fixed in one position, but won't be leaving residue on the lens itself. Because if you try something like electrical tape, it will leave gum on it. Not that you can't get it off, you just use electrical tape to pick it up. But I've just found that I don't like to leave any residue on the surface, just give myself any extra work. Now there's a reason I'm doing this on 2 sides like this. I want to make sure that I can put that nose section in as well and glue them all in without concern. So that's the approximate positioning of this. I just, again, checking to make sure that the lens is going to be seated in a way that it will not be wanting to move around, and that I've got enough of an overlap of the lens that comes over onto the outside of the helmet there, so that I can actually have a surface that it will glue to. All right. Here we have E6000, also known as Goop. E6000 is just, I think, a version of it. Interestingly, I've noted that there are differences between the Canadian and American versions of this. The American one is much more noxious and headache-inducing, so it's normally used to adhere the soles of shoes together, do repairs and that kind of thing, but this is really useful for me. I'm going to take this drip, and I'm just putting a drip on one side and then the other. This is going to be a two-part gluing process here, because if you put too much on it, it will just want to flow too much. And it's different when you're working with a glue that's been opened previously, but when it's new and fresh like this, it wants to flow too much. So I'm just taking a little stir stick here, which is used in coffee. Also a super useful tool to have around, because I just dispose of them when I'm done. And I want you to know this is a long stick. I actually cut this off periodically and get several uses out of it, so I'm not just wasting stick here. I am actually as environmental as I can be in this business. Now, if you notice, I don't know if the camera's even going to pick that up, but there is actually a substantial amount of goop behind the lens that just went right under it and will very soon freeze in position. And even though that very one point should be enough to actually keep that lens affixed, I will go back and add more to create possibly an inch length of adhesion point lockdown on both sides. Now, the beauty of not going around, and I've seen a lot of people actually go and they'll glue all the way around the lens, you know, as if they're going to be in space for real. It's totally unnecessary to go that far. You're much more prone to make it look sloppy. But as well, there's no aeration going around your lens when you're out wearing it. So the key to maintaining a clear view is having as much air circulation around your lens in particular as possible. Those 2 points with this glue, you will never need more. Really, it's really good. And it's also shock resistant. That's the beauty of this particular adhesive, is that it maintains a flexibility when it is cured, and almost like a firm rubber that will hold really well onto both of these surfaces. So even if you like hit it with something, it, unlike cyanoacrylate or crazy glue, which will just break free because it's like hard as a rock, on the flexible surfaces that we're talking about here, because ABS is flexible, it's high impact, it's a great adhesive for this. It holds on really well. I'm very happy with it. So I'm going to let that sit, and then I can come back to it with the next layer. So we've had the glue dry overnight here, which is best because it achieves its greater strength the more time has been put in, and I can remove the tape. I've actually gone back and done a second application of the E6000 or Goop to these areas. Once it started to get dry, I went back and added more, and as I say, I've added about an inch length of the glue down point, which does not come out in the front. You can't see it leaking out. If it does, when it's flowing initially, start to come to the front, all you need to do is turn the helmet over for a little bit and let the flow sort of recede back, and then it will dry. There's a reasonable drying time on this. It actually stops moving in several minutes, so it's not too long to tend to it. I've also added a little tab here of foam for the nose, so that the bridge of the nose of the wearer won't be cut by the 90-degree acrylic edge, just for a comfort sake thing. And we're ready now to attach the main portion of the helmet to the faceplate section. So there's like 4 components of ABS that are now put together. And when doing this, I just start to put it together just loosely. And I'm looking to see that we've got this line indentation sort of as a continuance on this side. And I don't want to get too close with these 2 parts. I just want to give it enough clearance that the visor is going to be able to flip up. So again, you've got this curvature which allows for that section, but it's not the fit is designed to make it so that we can still swivel. So I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap here, and on one side, as you can see, I've pre-punched the hole and watching that line. I'm going to take an awl here, and I'm just going to mark where that hole is. Very small section on that side, and I can see where I've marked it there. I'm going to go back to my leather punch. Alright, so now that hole you can see is now traversing these two pieces. I have a long rivet which I'm going to go and I'm going to put this piece through. The reason it is so long, not only is it going through so many components, but there's something else I'm going to do here to show you how I can get the piece to stay up. I'll feed this piece through here first. And I have beveled washers. These are available in your plumbing section, basically for sink pipes and tubes and this sort of thing. I'm going to put this through here. I'm going to have the flat side facing the helmet, but on there, I'm just creating a spacer. And the beauty of having a rubber component in between here is that it will create just the right amount of friction in addition to the spacing between these components. And that way, if you want your visor to flip up and stay up, you will have that point of friction from the rubber. So I've got one side in, it should be quite stable. I'm going to put that into itself here initially. A little tricky, you just want to make sure before I'm fastening anything down that I'm going to have the right point. I'm going to look at that straight on and make sure that I've got the right amount of cap showing this section, that it's level. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to refer to this side as well and make sure that I've got that part, this line is a continuum onto the other part. And then I'm going to go through with that awl again. It's all or nothing. Oh man, what terrible. This is going to be awful for someone to watch. The eye rolling. You are going to be getting some eye exercise. Alright, second hole punched. Looks like my punch is getting a bit blunt here, so I didn't punch it out right away. Once again, I'm going to take the rivet, press it through, and the beveled washer, and just move that in there, push it all the way through. Now, even unfastened, I just want to make sure that this is going to be the right location before I actually fasten it down. And we're looking good. Looking good. So at this stage, I'm now going to be able to take that steel and rivet that down. That creates just the amount of tension that you need between the parts. I use an aluminum rivet, those long ones. The steel ones will pull too hard. They're harder to break the shank off, and that pulls in a little bit too tight. You really don't need that kind of strength in your rivets when you're working with components that are made out of ABS and plastic. It's not really that kind of a connection that we're making here. Alright, so there's that part. I am going to come back and cut down a little bit of this edge off so that we've got a nice fit in there. And this part needs to close up. You can see the helmet now will stay lifted, and you can kind of see in there that spacing is ideal Also with the way that the lens moves perfectly over, if I'm looking in here, to see that the lens is going to clear the top of the cap, and it's a very nice close clearance. We're going to be adding some white Velcro sections here now to the side. I put the hard part, the hook, on that section, and it's set far enough away that when the faceplate is closed, you don't see the edge of that Velcro from the outside of the helmet. It's more to be a concealed thing. And the adjoining part, again, is just to be inset slightly on that lip so that you don't see it from the outside. Do the same on the other side. Something else I do is I round these edges off slightly because in this particular case I did create this slot. Some of the originals did have this, but I have included this little gap here so that it fits very nicely into there. Sometimes the assemblies go together slightly differently. And I round that edge because when it's being put on, it's going to be the part that passes nearest your face all the time, so you don't want to have a sharp edge on there. Might as well take it down. Ergonomics is part of the consideration when making one of these pieces if it's going to be worn. Also cut out 2 sections of industrial Velcro to put in here, because something else that we do is include in our built versions the chin strap with an elastic. And so I will put that Velcro section in here, basically along with the bottom of this on both sides. And it's long because it gives some adjustability up and down on the length of the strap that we include. Again, the built versions of these helmets. Alright, so I'll load it down. Again, I use the soft one on it on this side so that you're not having stuff that's grabbing your hair. And I can see how that's going to close. Notice that it stays locked down. Perhaps the Velcro is an unnecessary part if you've got a really tight fit on your pivot points, but it's just nice to have it locked down. And these are the included sliders that have been painted the same color as the snout and the decals, and we're just going to put them over there. I know people will use welding mask, like the 3M Speedmaster pieces, but for this design, this is more than adequate. For people that want to go and modify it, it's still quite simple to do. So there. The only thing that we need to do is add the piece that's being painted right now to put our nose piece on there, and add the chin strap, and we're done.